Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to talk about the R. Kelly situation. I know it took me a few days, and I explained in my last little short video where he was arrested that I had a sudden surge of business to come in, so I kind of had to put the videos to the side so I could deal with these customers that needed my services. But I am back, and I am going to just go ahead and recap everything that's happened over the past week, but I'm going to break it up into multiple videos so I don't end up with like a 2-hour video talking about this stuff. So the first video is called R. Kelly, the official charges and new accusations that have come out about the R&B singer. So Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx outlined the 10 charges of aggravated criminal sexual abuse against R&B singer R. Kelly, and she says that the charges involve 4 different victims. So Kim Foxx, if some of you have been following the Jussie Smollett story, she actually recused herself from that case because she says that she knows Jussie, and I guess she felt she couldn't be impartial. And I thought it was really interesting that she would do that, and I thought it was a cop-out as well. But it got me to thinking, so if you couldn't be fair and impartial to Jussie Smollett because you know him personally, then I think you should recuse yourself from the R. Kelly situation, considering that you have come out as a sexual assault victim. And so, can you really be impartial to any defendant who is being charged with sex crimes? And so I thought there was a little bit of conflict of interest in that, and maybe she just should have shut up about the Jussie Smollett thing, and maybe she should have shut up about being a sexual assault victim in her lifetime, because now it kind of like skews her judgment, and it makes it seem like she's going to go after these charges by any means necessary, not necessarily because she believes them to be true, but like so many people, it becomes a personal vendetta to get R. Kelly arrested and tried and convicted, as though it gives them some type of redeeming value. And I talked about this in a previous video where I was saying that I, as someone who's not a victim of sexual assault, I don't really understand how some of these alleged victims, how they react to sexual assault cases, sexual molestation cases. And when you try to have a conversation with them, they get very angry, very defensive. And so in following this case, one of the questions that comes to mind is, how do people celebrate R. Kelly being arrested? You know, they're all in, gung-ho, cursing people out online. They know for a fact that he's guilty, that he's did this, he's did that, that the people that are coming out with their stories are telling the truth. They just know, like ready to fight. No, you know, they were celebrating when he got arrested. And the question that I have is, how can you celebrate someone getting arrested because someone else has come forward with information, but you can't celebrate the person who assaulted or molested you getting arrested? Because despite how proud and happy you are of these victims coming forward, you still have not mustered up the strength or the courage to name your abuser. You still haven't mustered the courage to call the police and point the finger at the uncle, the brother, the cousin, the neighbor, the preacher, whoever it is that you're stating molested you or violated you at some point in time in your life. So if somebody wants to answer that question to me, like why are people expending so much energy in celebrating the downfall of R. Kelly and the prosecution of R. Kelly, but they still don't have the courage or the strength to save somebody else who may become the victim of the person that they claim sexually assaulted them? So leave those in the comments and let me know about that. But let's go ahead and get into these charges against R. Kelly. So this is how Prosecutor Fox broke it down for us. So she says that, there's four victims. So the first victim, she gives the initials HW and says that she was involved in incidents which occurred between May 26, 1998 and May 25th, 1999. A grand jury returned an indictment on 4 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse based on the victims being under the age of 17 and R. Kelly being more than 5 years older than the alleged victim. So we're trying to figure out who HW is. So we do have someone who has come forward to accuse R. Kelly in the public forum. So we can go ahead and give her name. And her name is Heather Williams. So according to Heather Williams, she's 36 years old now and says that she was 16 on May 26, 1998, when she was walking down a street in Chicago when Kelly approached her and asked if she wanted to appear in a music video. According to her lawsuit that she filed Thursday in Cook County Circuit Court. So we don't know if she is the HW in the indictment, but her name is Heather Williams and she filed a lawsuit. Once again, we got the money thing going on, people looking for a money grab instead of getting justice for what has happened to them. And so she says that they began having sex in June that year and continued until she was 18 or older. That's based on her complaint that she filed. And her lawyer, Jeffrey Dutchman, declined to say if his client is the alleged victim identified as HW in the criminal complaint against R. Kelly. And then the lawyer also told NBC Chicago, I have encouraged my client to cooperate fully with the state's attorney's office and the police department in the criminal prosecution, as I think that's the best chance for justice that she or any other woman can get. The second victim initials are RL, and so when I first saw RL, I was thinking Rashonda Landfair, which is the alleged victim in the tape that R. Kelly went to court for back in 2008. But now I'm not sure if this is the same person, and as I read this, you guys will understand why. So it says that RL was involved in an incident which occurred between September 26, 1998 and September 25, 2001. A grand jury returned an indictment on 2 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse based on the victim being under the age of 17 and Kelly being more than 5 years older than the victim. So one of the reasons I'm thinking that it's not Rashonda Landfair, because I think that it would blow up the media if it was determined that she had agreed to testify in this case. And then I got to thinking, okay, well, they said it was her in the last case, but because she didn't come forward and her family was denying that it was her in the tape, that's why he got the not guilty verdict. But then some more information came out, and it says that a 16-year-old girl reported meeting Kelly in 1998. So we know it's not Rashonda Landfair because according to reports, the person in that video was only 13 years old. And so this couldn't have been her. And I think they kind of said that the video was recorded around 1998, and then that would align, or 97 or 98, because that would align with the time that R. Kelly was working with Sparkle on her CD, and Sparkle was the one that introduced the little girl to R. Kelly. So I'm thinking that this is not her. That's another reason. And so it says that she met Kelly in 1988 she met R. Kelly in 1998 at a restaurant where she was having a birthday party. That R. Kelly's manager gave the girl his phone number, which I think would be so rude and disrespectful that we're in a restaurant celebrating my child's birthday and then some grown ass man gonna walk up and give my child another grown man's business card. Like, are y'all let y'all doggone mind? And I think this is why people have such a hard time believing these stories. But anyway, the manager allegedly told the girl to give R. Kelly a call. So then the girl's mother overheard the exchange, took the card, and told the manager that her daughter was only 16. But for some reason, the mama didn't rip the card up or throw it in the manager's face or give the card back to the manager. She put it in her pocketbook. So I don't know if she was going to call R. Kelly for herself. I don't know if the mama was saying, like, I don't know what these people were thinking, because they just handle situations totally different than this mama would have handled the situation, and how this mama's mama would have handled the situation. So anyway, later on, RL got that card out of her mama's pocketbook and decided to call Mr. R. Kelly herself. And so from that, R. Kelly allegedly gave her instructions and taxi fare to the studio. Now, in order for R. Kelly to give her taxi fare to the studio, wouldn't it have had to have been in person? I'm just asking. Like, when I be reading information, these are the questions that be popping up in my mind. So I'm thinking, in order for him to give her fare to pay for the taxi to get to his studio, that there had to have been some physical exchange, because remember, this is back in 1998. So anyway, she went on, got in that car and went on to that studio, and evidently they had sex periodically for a year, according to the documents. So then the third victim, initials are LC, and this person was involved in an incident which occurred February 18, 2003. A grand jury returned an indictment on one count of aggravated criminal sexual abuse based on the transmission of semen by R. Kelly upon any part of the body of the victim for the purposes of sexual gratification during the course of an underlying felony of attempted criminal sexual assault. So in early 2003, a Chicago hairdresser told prosecutors that she thought she was going to braid R. Kelly's hair. But he pulled down his pants and instead tried to force her to give him oral sex. The woman, who was 24 at the time, was able to pull away, but Kelly ejaculated on her and spit in her face, the documents say. Kelly's DNA was found in semen on one of the accuser's shirts, and semen found on a shirt worn by another was submitted for DNA testing. Kelly's DNA was found in semen on one of the accuser's shirts, and semen was found on a shirt worn by another person. And both of these shirts were submitted for DNA testing, according to Kim Fox. And it was not clear when the accusers turned the shirts over to authorities, whether it was shortly after the abuse or more currently. Now, my question is, like, first of all, if R. Kelly or any other man approach me and they trying to have sex and I don't want to have sex, we probably ain't gonna be close enough for him to be ejaculating on me. Number two, when he started jacking off in front of me, I ain't gonna be standing there looking at him ejaculate in front of me. I'm probably gonna go to the door and be like, N-word, if you don't get the hell out of my place with this nonsense. But I am definitely not going to be close enough to him where he is coming on me, my shirt, or anything else. And then I'm thinking, okay, so he came on her shirt, which means that he had to have been higher, more than likely was over her. So was she sitting down as he was standing in front of her ejaculating? Once again, these are the things that come in my mind when I'm reading these stories. Like, I'm trying to envision how does these things take place? And so these are the questions that I have. Then the second person, why is we saving these t-shirts with people come on it? Because I'm thinking, even if I'm trying to get away from you and you come on me or whatever, I'm probably, if I'm not calling the police right then and there to report your behind, I am going to wash that shirt, or I'm going to throw that shirt in the garbage can, because that's just nasty, okay? Especially if it's not something that I was engaged or involved with. But once again, this is how my mind operates. It doesn't mean that this is how the alleged victims' minds were operating, evidently. So now let's move over to the fourth victim, whose initials are JP, and we really don't have to guess on this one because we already know that it is Geronda Pace. because Geronda seems to be getting a high off of this whole thing. Like, she is loving this attention. And then Geronda is supposed to be married. And I'm wondering, what is her husband saying about all of this? Like, I don't know, but let's go ahead. So JP was involved in incidents which occurred between May 1st, 2009 and January 31st, 2010. The grand jury returned an indictment on 3 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse based on the victim being under the age of 17 and R. Kelly being more than 5 years older than the victim. So here's the identifying information to help us figure out who these people are. So it says another accuser, also 16, met Kelly in his 2008 trial, where he gave her an autograph. So we know this is Geronda because this was her story that she told on the Surviving R. Kelly series. He later invited her to his home in the Chicago suburb of Olympia Fields, where they had sex multiple times according to the documents, which said he also slapped, choked, and spit on her. Now, if you slap me, choke me, or spit on me, that's probably going to be the end of whatever we had going on, because I ain't coming back to nobody choking, slapping, and damn sure ain't finna let nobody spit on me more than one time, but that's just me. So prosecutors also described a witness who had access to videotapes knowing Kelly having sex with a 14-year-old girl. The witness turned the tape over to authorities and identified the girl, who repeatedly states her age on the footage, according to the documents. And then we already know that that is Lisa Van Allen. So according to the court of public opinion, Lisa Van Allen is actually the one that stole the tapes. And if you watch the Surviving R. Kelly series, she talks about how the tapes were stolen and somebody was trying to blackmail her, and R. Kelly, I guess, paid the people off to get the tapes back, which would mean that R. Kelly is really an idiot because if somebody steals a tape from you and they're blackmailing you with the tape, common sense would say that the person has made copies of the tape and they are going to keep blackmailing you over the years. So I don't know if that's what happened in this situation, but I'm just thinking in my mind that if I get hold of a tape and I'm that type of person, I'm low down dirty like that, and I'm going to blackmail somebody, and that person gives me X amount of dollars, I'm going to be like, okay, they real damn dumb and stupid, so let me go ahead and say, okay, I got another tape. So give me some more money, and we're going to keep doing this until the person finally says, okay, I'm not giving you any more money, I'm calling the police or whatever. That's just how my mind operates. Maybe that's not how a criminal mind operates. But anyway, speaking of Miss Lisa Van Allen, you know, she has a book that's coming out called Surviving the Pied Piper. So she's on the circuit where she is pushing her book, and she's, you know, yes, he's guilty. Yes, he did that. You know, now the Michael Avenatti guy claiming that there's like 2, 3, 4, 5 videos. And he turning all these videos over to the prosecution. And so now Lisa Van Allen is saying, oh, she knows for sure about these videos. And she thinks that these are the videos from where she was having sex with these teen girls along with R. Kelly. And I'm just like, girl, you need to be arrested too, because you were old enough to have known better. But, you know, we'll see what happens with these videos, because so far the prosecution has said nothing about all these videos that Michael Avenatti claims that he is handing over to them. So back to Miss Geronda Pace. So Geronda was being called out on social media for what some are calling stalkerish behavior. So we know she was at the bond hearing after R. Kelly was arrested. And then again, they say she came to another trial that he had on Monday, where they were telling him who the judge was going to be that was going to be overseeing his trial. And she just keep popping up everywhere. And so also in a 2017 article, Geronda is quoted as saying that she's particularly concerned about a friend that she brought into R. Kelly's circle, and that this, when they were both teenagers, and that this person is still living with R. Kelly or still involved with R. Kelly. And so Do y'all know who she talking about? Like, who is the friend? Because they keep talking about all these women that are supposed to be with R. Kelly, but the only two people that we keep hearing about is Jocelyn Savage and Azriel Clary. So are there other women that are supposed to be living with him? So if y'all know who she talking about, y'all let me know. And so I'm starting to wonder if Geronda got some mental issues going on and that she is like still obsessed with R. Kelly and that she's kind of jealous that her friend that she introduced him to is still with R. Kelly, because y'all know women can be really trifling like that. And so maybe this is her vendetta because she's married and has kids. Like, what are you doing, girl? Get on with your life. And like, if you want to, have him prosecuted, I can understand that, show up for the testimony. But all this, like, trying to be in the media, all on social media, people talking about her on social media. She going back and forth with people in the comments. I'm like, put your page on private and only interact with people who are on your friends list. Like, why is your page open up for people to be coming for you and then sitting there talking about you gonna block people, but you still let the comments go on and on and on. So once again, how my mind works. I'm just thinking this is what I would do, but obviously they don't feel that way. So those are the charges against R. Kelly. And people were asking the question because each one of these charges, the penalty if he's found guilty is that he could receive probation or he could receive a minimum of 3 years to 7 years in prison. And so I'm thinking that the reason they're going for the lesser charges is because, number one, they want to guarantee a conviction just to say, okay, we tried this, we got a conviction, let's move on now. And so the Michael Evanetti guy, he keeps talking about tapes and evidence, but if it is so strong, why are they not going for the jugular on R. Kelly? And so some are saying that they filed the charges just to get people to shut up. Like, they are tired of people calling the prosecutor's office, demanding that R. Kelly be charged. So they threw these charges together and, they're going to throw it up, see what sticks and what doesn't. But at the end of the day, they'll be able to say, okay, we arrested him, we charged him with something, it's in the jury's hand. If the jury doesn't find him guilty, there is nothing we can do. We have done our part. And then also people are talking about, he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. If he's found guilty, he's going to get 70 years in prison. And so I'm not sure that that is the case because if you recall, Bill Cosby was on trial for more than one charge in the case with the man-looking woman. I can't think of her name. Y'all know what was that woman's name? Andrea Constand. Yeah, her. So he was found guilty on multiple charges, and each charge carried 3 to 10 years in prison or probation, similar to these charges against R. Kelly. So he didn't get 30 years in prison. He got the 3 to 10 years, and he can basically get out in 3 years, but all those sentences are running what's called concurrent, which means that he's serving the time on each charge at the same time. And I'm thinking that if R. Kelly is found guilty on any of these charges, he will get the same type of sentence, because typically when people are given consecutive sentences, it's for really heinous crimes like murders, like if you killed somebody and you tortured that person. It's like when you just go out of your way to really do something awful to a person, then they will give you your sentences that run consecutively. And then it kind of reminded me of the Nasser, the Dr. Nasser, the guy who was sentenced to like hundreds of years in prison for the Olympic gymnast sexual assault cases. So what they did to him was he was tried on multiple charges. So he had, like with Bill Cosby had one trial, but it was for 3 different charges. With the Nasser guy, he had separate trials for all of these different charges against him. And so I'm wondering, like there's 4 victims with R. Kelly. is there going to be 4 different trials for each victim, or are they going to try everything together? Because if they try everything together, the most time that R. Kelly most likely will serve is the 7-year maximum. That's the most he's going to serve, even though he could be found guilty on all 10 charges, receive 7 years on all 10 charges. They would most likely run concurrent, and he would only serve 7 years in prison. Now, if they tried the cases separately, then he could serve once again, each person has 3 and 4 charges. So how much would he get? So with the 4 victims, if he has 4 separate trials, the most time he would serve is 7 years. So 7 times 4 would be 28 years. So he would not serve 70 years in prison. The most in that instance would be 28 years, because with the consecutive sentencing, if you have multiple trials, then you can't do the concurrent. You add them on. Well, I'm not going to say you can't do it, but most likely if they try you separately, it's because they want to get the consecutive sentences. And so with each trial, they would add those charges on, and it still would only equal out to 28 years. But you figure he's 52 years old now, so 52 plus 28 is what, 80? He would be 80 years old before he got out. So that's how the whole sentencing thing works out, to my understanding. And as I tell y'all all the time, in the words of Funky Deneva, when I got my college degree, it was not in law and all of this stuff, but I am pretty good at reading. So this is my comprehension of how the whole sentencing thing takes place. Meanwhile, separate from R. Kelly's criminal prosecution, a Michigan woman has now filed a civil lawsuit against him, claiming that she had sex with him when she was a minor. So in this case, 36-year-old Danielle Williams said that Kelly lured her in when she was 16, and she tells WGN that she wanted to tell her story for a long time. And so the aspiring model says she was given Kelly's business card by a manager at a downtown Chicago restaurant in 1998. And she said that she skipped school to go to Kelly's studio on the near west side, and said that she thought that she was auditioning for a music video. And so she says that, he told me to take off my clothes and we would proceed from there. And when I got in the cab, I got an envelope with $1,000. I had never seen that amount of money in my life. I had no concept of getting paid for sexual acts. I didn't think it applied to me, only for adults. So some of Williams' memories echo those of other women who said they were abused by the music star on Lifetime's 6-part series, Surviving R. Kelly. So Williams also said that R. Kelly always wanted her to talk like a baby. She says that he once held her in a hotel for 3 days against her will. And she says, I always felt like if I crossed him, he would kill me. I just felt like he had the power to find me wherever I was. She also believes that R. Kelly should go to jail. Once again, you filing a lawsuit, you're not pressing charges against him. So if this happened to you, how do you expect him to go to jail if you're not willing to press charges? And so at first, when I was hearing this story, I was thinking, okay, is this the girl from the birthday party? But this doesn't seem to be the girl from the birthday party, so I don't know. And then other accusations that came up last Thursday, Gloria Allred showed up with 2 women. And if you guys remember, her and the Michael Alvanetti guy got into a Twitter beef because she was saying that these alleged tapes that he's turning over to the prosecution, she believes were of her client, one of her clients. So now she's come forward and says that she's representing these 2 women who claimed that they were at a 1996 concert with R. Kelly, Escape, and LL Cool J in the 1990s. And this actual concert took place on April 6, 1996. They said R. Kelly had sex with one of them when she was under the influence of marijuana and alcohol, and that she could not have given her consent. So the 2 women are named Latricia Scaff and Rochelle Washington. And so they did this press conference in New York with Gloria Allred, although the alleged assault took place in Baltimore, Maryland. And if you guys remember, last month, Gloria Allred held this press conference where she was representing this woman named Faith Rogers. And they were going to meet with police and all of this stuff, and then it quietly came out like a week later that the Faith Rogers woman had already presented her case to the New York officials, and that they had kicked the case back, saying that she did not have a valid claim or a prosecutable claim because it was he say, she say, and she didn't have any evidence, and she was an adult at the time. So now Gloria Allred is representing these two women, and so she, at the press conference, she puts up this picture of the two girls, and they were the typical, you go to the concert, there's this backdrop, you do the little look at your butt poses that I wish could be banned. Like, we were doing those poses when I was a teenager, and they still doing those poses today. But anyway, in the second picture, it's of the two girls and LL Cool J. Now, I don't know if Gloria Allred thought LL was R. Kelly, or if she was just showing the picture as proof that the young women attended this concert, or attended a concert where LL Cool J was there. Not sure if there was any dates on the picture or anything that could verify that it was the actual concert that happened in 1996. The Latrice woman says that they were at an after party that R. Kelly was hosting, and that he had a member of his entourage come over and supply them with drugs and alcohol, and then told them to meet him at his hotel suite. And so she says that we both went to the hotel thinking that there was going to be another party there. But you were 16 and the other girl was 15 at the time, but y'all out there looking for parties. So anyway, Scalp says that the two girls were in Kelly's room when Kelly entered with his penis already outside of his jeans. And she said he wanted to have a threesome with the two girls. But Washington said no and escaped to the bathroom. And so I guess she was hiding in the bathroom while R. Kelly and the other girl were doing whatever they were doing, because she said that they had, and then had intercourse, and that although she was under the influence of marijuana and alcohol, she did not have the capacity to consent. And she keeps saying that over and over. And then I read it another, I think it was in Billboard.com. I think it was Billboard.com, where she basically says that she called the local radio station to tell them that she was in this room with R. Kelly, and so the people said that they could tell whether or not she was telling the truth, and for her to hang up from whatever phone she was calling from, so I'm assuming she was calling from a cell phone, and to actually call from the hotel room, because then they knew where R. Kelly was staying at, and then they would be able to tell if the number she was calling from actually originated from the hotel that they knew he was staying at. And then allegedly she did that and was actually live on air talking to these people leading up to R. Kelly coming into the room with her. So that's supposed to be her proof that she was actually there. But I haven't read anything where anyone from the radio station has come back to corroborate that information or say that they remember this happening. I don't know how you would corroborate that unless they save the recordings of all the the shows from the radio station, which I'm thinking there would be a whole lot of recordings when you're talking about 32 years have passed since then. So she says that when I first met R. Kelly that night, I was very happy and excited because I was young and starstruck. However, now that I am an adult, I feel hurt by what he did to me when I was only 16 years old. And then she says the whole thing about under the influence. And so Washington said that now that she's a mother, she feels like she was taken advantage of by R. Kelly. I don't want justice for anyone I just want justice for anyone that was hurt or violated. I want victims to know it's not their fault. So Allred, who said that she had several clients who alleged that they were assaulted by or abused by R. Kelly, not all of whom have spoken out publicly, says that Scalf and Washington were brave to come forward. So she says for years they were embarrassed about what happened that night, and they were not sure if they should blame themselves for what happened when they were only teenagers. And so Allred said that the two women planned to meet with officials with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York. She did not say why she chose that jurisdiction for alleged crimes that happened in Maryland, especially since Maryland has no statute of limitations on these type of crimes. However, it appears that the age of consent is 16, but there is no statute of limitations on when you can report. Also worth mentioning, in the initial stories that the Latricia and the other lady did, they were saying that she was in her 30s, that they were both in their 30s, but then people on social media were coming out saying that's a lie because I know her from high school, or she was along with my sibling in high school, and so at the very least she is 40 years of age. She's not in her 30s. And so then I read an article on the New York Times website which listed their ages, saying that Latricia Scalf is 40 years old and Rochelle Washington is 39 years old. So if this concert was in 1996 and she says that she was 16, then she would only be like 38 or 39. So, child, I don't know. They're telling the truth or not. And so, on a side note, Scalf has 3 children. Her son was actually murdered on September 14, 2016 in Baltimore, and his birthday was listed as May 25th, 1998, and then she has 2 daughters, and I believe one daughter was born in 2000 and the other daughter was born in 2002. And I'm going to drop a video here where she's actually being interviewed for a story that was done in Baltimore about, you know, the senseless murders that's going on and what can be done to help cut down crime in Baltimore.
Amani Grossman, Latricia Scalf's son. Latricia raised a family near Long Bonaparte Avenue in East Baltimore. It may not have been sweet, but it was home.
They've seen people get beat up real bad. You know, like I said, bodies. They hear gunshots. They couldn't go outside and play.
Her oldest son, Amani, grew up here.
It was like for life. We would talk about the violence every day. You know, like things like, "Ma, if you don't get us out this city, I'm going to die. I know I'm going to die."
Pablo Koropecki coached Amani in middle school.
He was the kind of player, you know, coaches dream about.
Away from school, though, Amani faced threats and unshakable street violence. At 13, his life was threatened at knife point, and he never shook what he witnessed while shooting dice one day along his block. Amani described to a psychologist how, quote, a guy came up and blew another guy's brains out. Doctors later diagnosed Amani with PTSD. Amani's evaluation followed one of his 3 arrests by the age of 17. The cases involved an armed robbery, a carjacking, and an alleged sex offense. Prosecutors dropped the charges in all but one case. Amani pled guilty in the sex offense. A judge sentenced him to 10 years but suspended 9 of them. One of his childhood friends was a co-defendant in that case. Latricia moved out of the city and into the county in hopes of providing a safer life for her family.
He didn't like it out here. He said it was nothing to do. He was bored.
By 2016, Amani was back in Baltimore with the same childhood friend charged in that sex offense case. This video shows them together on September 14th. Seconds later, shots rang out. Amani's childhood friend stood by and watched as he was murdered.
I felt it. It was horrible. This is the most pain I ever endured in life.
And then to wrap this up, in the indictment, the prosecution addressed the question of the statute of limitations, saying that even abuse that happened more than 2 decades ago falls within the charging window allowed under Illinois law. Victims typically have 20 years to report abuse beginning when they turn 18, And I think I talked about the whole Illinois statute of limitations in a prior video that I did where I was talking about R. Kelly. And so Kelly's a lawyer, Stephen Greenberg, responded to the charges with a statement over the weekend saying, "We haven't seen any evidence, any reason to believe these allegations are credible. He's a rock star. He doesn't need to have non-consensual sex." So in the real world, that would be true. But if your client has a sickness or an obsession or a criminal mind, then he would rape people. And I think that this is one of the issues with this case, because in every single story, no rape actually took place. These people use terms interchangeably that really do not apply, because what really is going on with this R. Kelly situation is not about rape. It's not about molestation. It's about whether or not he manipulated these girls into these relationships with him. And then the thing that you're going to have to look at is whether in each one of the cases the girls seem to have approached him or seem to have put themselves in a situation to be in his presence. And then it comes down to, he should have been mature enough, he should have been wise enough, he should have been responsible enough not to have taken advantage of that situation. But do these situations warrant the title that are being, sexual assault, rape, all of those things? Does it warrant those labels? I think is what the jury is going to have to decide in these cases. What else? And then I'm going to go ahead and talk about just some stats on, because people want to throw out that teens are not mentally mature enough to make a decision about being with, someone in a sexual context. So I'm going to read some stats to you guys from two websites that I used when I was writing my book, The Red Bear Society, to let you know that it's important for parents to talk to their kids, and it's important for there to be sexual education courses in schools, in churches, in community organizations to help kids make better decisions. Because I think if kids are educated, if kids are not facing traumas in their own homes, that they will make better decisions going forward. And then it kind of eliminates this whole argument about whether or not somebody was taken advantage of, because there's a difference between being taken advantage of and making a decision that you should not have made. And then once again, it goes back to the adult, and the adult being mature enough to say that this may be tempting, but I'm not going there because I understand the repercussions of it. So just go ahead and check out these stats, and then we'll talk later. According to RECAP, which stands for Resource Center of Adolescents Pregnancy Prevention, how many teens are sexually active? In 2015, 30% of all high school students reported being sexually active, meaning they had sex in the previous 3 months. Under half, 46% of all 12th grade students reported being sexually active, compared to almost 16%, 15.7% of 9th grade students. Many adolescents are engaging in sexual behaviors other than vaginal intercourse. About half have had oral sex, and just over 1 in 10 have had anal sex. And then it asks how many teens are using substance before having sex. In 2015, 21% of high school students who had sexual intercourse during the first 3 months drank alcohol or used drugs before their last sexual intercourse. Between 1991 and 1999, the percentage of high school students who had sexual intercourse during the past 3 months who drank alcohol or used drugs before their last sexual intercourse increased from 22% to 25%, and then decreased during 1999 to 2015, which dropped from 25% to 21%. And the next stat was how many teens report having multiple partners. In 2015, nationwide, 11.5% of high school students reported having already had 4 or more sexual partners. 4 or more. So boys, 14.1%, are more likely than girls, 8.8%, to report that they have had 4 or more partners. Between 1991 and 2015, the proportion of students who had sexual intercourse with 4 or more persons during their lifetime decreased from 19% to 11.5%. How many teens report having sex before age 13? In 2015, 3.9% of students had sexual intercourse for the first time before age 13. Between 1991 and 2015, the percentage of teens who reported having had sex before the age of 13 decreased from 10.2% to 3.9%. The prevalence of having sexual intercourse before age 13 years decreased from 2013 5.6% to 2015 3.9%. The prevalence of having had sexual intercourse before age 13 was higher among males, which was 5.6%, than females, which was 2.2%. And then on the website called Advocates for Youth, it asks a question in respect to others' right to bodily autonomy. 8% of high school students have been forced to have intercourse, while 1 in 10 students say they have committed sexual violence. Good sex education teaches young people that constitutes sexual violence, what constitutes sexual violence, that sexual violence is wrong, and how to find help if they have been assaulted. So in this study on the Advocates for Youth website, it says, why is sexual health education important to young people's health and well-being? And so this goes to parents talking to your kids about sex and teaching them about sex, and also the need to have sex education courses taught in school and in community agencies. So one point they made was avoid negative health consequences. Each year in the United States, about 750,000 teens become pregnant, with up to 82% of those pregnancies being unintended. Young people ages 15 to 24 account for 25% of all new HIV infections in the U.S. and make up almost 1/2 of the over 19 million new, let me repeat that, 19 million new STD infections Americans acquire each year. Sex education teaches young people the skills they need to protect themselves. And the next bullet point, communicate about sexuality and sexual health. Throughout their lives, people communicate with parents, friends, and intimate partners about sexuality. Learning to freely discuss contraception and condoms, as well as activities they are not ready for, protects young people's health throughout their lives. Delay sexual initiation until they are ready. Comprehensive sexual health education teaches abstinence as the only 100% effective method of preventing HIV, STIs, and unintended pregnancies, and as a valid choice which everyone has the right to make. Dozens of sex education programs have been proven effective in helping young people delay sex or have sex less often. And then understand healthy and unhealthy relationships. Maintaining a healthy relationship requires skills young people are never taught, like positive communication, conflict management, and negotiating decisions around sexual activity. A lack of these skills can lead to unhealthy and even violent relationships among youth. 1 in 10 high school students has experienced physical violence from a dating partner in the past year. Sex education should include understanding and identifying healthy and unhealthy relationship patterns, effective ways to communicate relationship needs and manage conflict, and strategies to avoid or end an unhealthy relationship. Understand, value, and feel autonomy over their bodies. Comprehensive sexual health education teaches not only the basics of puberty and development, but also instills in young people that they have the right to decide what behaviors they engage in and to say no to unwanted sexual activity. Furthermore, sex education helps young people to examine the forces that contribute to a positive or negative body image. And it also goes on to say research from the National Survey of Family Growth assessed the impact of sexuality education on youth sexual risk-taking of young people ages 15 to 19 and found that teens who received comprehensive sex education were 50% less likely to experience pregnancy than those who received abstinence only until marriage programs. Even accounting for differences in household income and education, stats which teach sex education and or HIV education that covers abstinence as well as contraception tend to have the lowest pregnancy rate. So guys, that's it for me. I thought by breaking these topics up that I would keep these videos down to like 20 minutes. But as you can see, there's a lot to talk about on this subject, and it turned out to be longer than I thought. But anyway, that's it for part 2. Part 1 was R. Kelly actually turning himself in, and it was just a short 5-minute video because I just wanted to get that out there and let people know that he had turned himself in. So anyway, go ahead and leave your comments below. Let's get the conversation started. Rate the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.